Kill that urge to be chosen. Choose yourself.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimmy, aka kimmybooks, and I read sometimes. And today we are going to be talking about the books that I've read this year, aka the mid-year check-in. I'm really excited to talk about these books because I don't know what happened yesterday, but I know exactly what happened yesterday. I was scrolling on Instagram, la-di-di-da, and I stumbled across my friend's post, Bring Your Own podcast. My friends Branda, Kayla, and Kendra. I'll put their Instagram somewhere on the screen. And I was like, you know what? I should probably do something like that. It looks amazing. Also, I've been watching a lot of Love Island, so if I go in and out of a British accent more so than usual, that's why. Yeah, I just got inspired, and usually I won't, filming isn't my favorite thing in the world anymore, just because this year's been kind of tough on my mental, a lot of grief this year, and so I was like, Kim, dial it back. You were going to burn out, but right now I feel really motivated. I actually did my lashes today, y'all. Look.
Don't hurt them.
I did my lashes today, y'all. I did it in the morning. I was like, these look good. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
So this video was actually filmed back June 30th, but obviously it's August now, so it took forever. So it's been a couple of months since I made this video, and it's pretty outdated, but I still wanted to show, it was kind of mid-year, it was almost July.
So we are going to start with the books I'm currently reading, just because everybody knows I have the attention span of a squirrel. So we're gonna talk about those first before I get sidetracked. So I am currently reading One of Us Is Back. This is one of my most anticipated, if not my most anticipated read of the year. Comes out on the 25th. I was lucky enough to get an ARC. Screw them for canceling that TV show. So serious. But this book is so good so far, y'all. This is where I was, but I'm like 50% in now, and I am loving it. The mystery is so good. The build up. At first I was angry about some POVs we were getting because I wanted other character POVs, but now that we have them, I'm like, I get where we're going with this. I'm really excited. I'm also reading Charlie Loving Cliches by Ella Mays. I'll put it on the screen. And I'm having a lot of fun with that one. That one I'm slowly reading because the chapters are long as hell. I am not a long chapter girly. Immediately I open a book and you're telling me a chapter is 20 pages, I might have to close that book. What? I don't know, 20 to 30 pages per chapter is kind of insane to me. My brain is like, what is going on here? So yeah, when I opened up my Kindle app and it was like 15 minutes, 13 minutes. 13 minutes for what? Me to finish the chapter? Babes, let's be serious, eh? I also just finished the audiobook The Hookup by Kristen Callahan, which I'll actually talk about in the video. I'm reading another book, but my brain can't compute it right now, so I guess you'll have to see when I talk about it next. On to my reads of the year. I did a whole separate video on my January and I believe February wrap up, so please go ahead and watch those videos if you have not. If you haven't, please watch it. Please watch it. The video is actually really good, but I'm a little biased here, I do have to say. Anyways, so I'm gonna do basically a speed run over the books that I read in January and February because I do have entire videos on that, so yeah. Okay, so I have my Goodreads up and we are going to speed round through the books I read in January. Waiting for Goodreads to load so I can go through all my ratings. Sometimes I really do hate this app. I need to get better at Storygraph. I really want to get better at Storygraph, but something in me is like, you've already spent so much time on Goodreads. How can you transfer all your stuff to Storygraph and feel okay with it? Yada, yada, yada. I don't know, my brain is... Just like that, we are finally ready to get into it. Okay, so speed round, January through February. So the first book of the year I read was Timeless. It was the last book in the Larkov series, and I gave it 4 stars. But now that I think about it, I could honestly give it a 3-star. It's nothing extraordinary. Okay, Partners in Crime by Alicia Rye. Also, I don't have my contacts in, so if y'all see me, you know that one Ariana meme where she's like, me and her are one because I can't see. Partner in Crime by Alicia Rye. I gave that book 4 stars. It was so good. It was almost like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith high-speed crazy adventure, but not really Mr. and Mrs. Smith because they're not married, but they were dating for a really long time and they fell in love with each other, but something happened. It's so good. Also amazing representation. Then Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I obviously gave that book 5 stars. It is so good. The banter, the romance, everything. It's also YA and it is a Black romance, so really it was made for me. Honestly, I think Talia had maybe seen me once and was like, you know what I think Kimmy would like? highly suspicious and unfairly cute. And I read Happily Ever Afters, which is the first book in that series. I give it a 3.5. It's cutesy little YA black romance. I had a lot of fun reading it. I'd been wanting to read it for a long time. I owned the book for like a year and a half before I touched it, and I was really upset that I waited that long. But that one is interracial, I believe. Yeah. And then I read the first book in the Tattered and Torn series, and now y'all know how I feel about this series. Y'all know how I feel about the series, so I gave it a 3.75. I think I'll stick by it. My review is pretty, yeah. Love Theoretically, I could finally freaking talk about it, because when I made the video, I almost spoiled, like I literally did a whole, like maybe 5-minute part of the video where I had talked about the book, and I realized that the book hadn't come out yet. I read it in January, it literally came out maybe last week. God. Anyways, that book is so good. The best Ali Hazelwood book that she has written, in my humble opinion. I don't know, it's just done amazing. I love the banter, I love the romance. The third act breakup wasn't stupid to me either. So I had a lot of fun. It really is my favorite one. Then I read One True Loves, which is the second book in the Happily Ever After series, again by Elise Bryant. That one, I gave 4 stars. I hated the third act breakup. I thought that was the dumbest thing. That's why I took off an entire star for it. I absolutely despised it, but every other bit of that book is good, and it is also a black YA romance. Then I read the second book in the Tattered and Torn series, Fallen Embers. That book, 3 stars, kind of disappointed. That's all I said. I expected so much more out of that book. Ugh. Honestly, let me not get into that series, but that series is just not for me. It's not bad, but I would never reread those books. Okay, Not Here to Be Liked, which is an Asian YA romance, which I loved. I give it a 4.5 stars. It is academic rivals to lovers. And it's so fun because she's like the nerdy newspaper girly, and he's like the jock turned, I don't know, because of an injury, blah, blah, blah. It's so good. It is so good. If you're gonna read a book, like definitely pick that one up along with the ones I'm reading amazing. I read Royally Not Ready by Megan Quinn. That book, now that I think about it, is one of my least favorite books of the year, to say the least. And you know why I read it too? People were like, oh, this is Princess Diaries coded. Da-da-da-da. I'm like, Royal? I'm gonna pick up that book. I had one of the worst reading experiences, like in the sense where I was just disappointed. Like nobody should have told me that was Princess Diaries. I would have had my hope up, and I would have not went into the book with such high expectations. Anyways, then I read Final Offer by Lauren Asher, who I met, pictures inserted. She's literally the kindest person in the world. I love the book. I give it 5 stars. Cal and Alana's story finally came to a close. My babies. Cal is my favorite guy of the brothers, and I said of the brothers, of the Kane brothers, and then my favorite girl is always gonna be Iris. She's just that B. She's just that B. How to Fake It in Hollywood, I gave it 4.5 stars. This is one of my friend Kendra's favorite books. So I read it because of her, and I was not disappointed. I actually listened to the audiobook, and I think that audiobook experience was one of my favorite ones. Like, it is so like entrancing. You want to keep reading and listening. I don't know. I really did have an amazing time. Then I read the third book in the Tattered and Torn series, and you might be asking, Kimmy, why did you read that series if you didn't like it? I was buddy reading it with a friend. And one thing about me, I'm gonna stick to that series. Like, if I start a series, I have to finish it. No matter what, I have to finish it. So maybe that's on me, but hey man, say man. You gotta do what you gotta do when it's done. The next book I read was Hidden Waters, which is the third book in the Tattered and Torn series. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't even leave a review, so I think that sums up how I felt. Then I read The Spy in 3B by Nana Malone, who I also met during Book Bonanza. Also, if y'all want like a Book Bonanza like recap, like my experience, I can make the video. It'll probably be kind of short, and I talk about other things, because I honestly, all the horror stories I've heard from Book Bonanza, I didn't really experience that besides like the wristbands, but it was completely on Book Bonanza, not the people going. Like, one thing I hate is when people are like, blame the people, when it was literally not the people's fault. Like, there was no lines, there was no communication, and there was no organization when it came to the wristbands. Like, they had amazing setup during like check-in. They should have done the exact same thing for wristbands, and we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in now. Anywho, Spy and 3B, I gave 4 stars. I absolutely love it. Now, this one is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. These are spies, black girl, white man, so it's interracial, and basically they're both spies, but the other person doesn't know it, and I think they're both each other's like missions to like, I think either eliminate each other or like find out more whatever, but they don't know it. So like they're falling for each other, and then they're like, I read the follow-up book, The Assassin in 5F, and I had a blast. I also gave that one 4 stars. You cannot read one without the other, so do think about those as a duo when you go into it, because it's so good. Then I read or listened to Drunk on Love by Jasmine Guillory, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. I had fun, but as I thought about it more after I finished it, I was like, there's some things I would change, and it got kind of boring for me. I listened to it, and at some points I was like, ugh, like waiting for certain chapters to be over. And I also think his reluctance towards like telling his mom stuff or his family like what was going on was kind of annoying to me. Then I read the 4th book in the Tattered and Torn series, Shattered Sea. I gave it a 3.8, so that one might have been better than the rest. What's that one video? You know that one, like me reading these series is like me like. Then I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, and when I tell you she threw me down the stairs, picked me up, put me in a car, drove me, opened the car door, threw me out of the car into a body of water, knowing I can't tread water, that's exactly what she did to me emotionally. That book, I have never, when I tell you this year I was screaming, my friend Razan actually was like, oh, Kimmy, you have to read this book, you have to. And I was gonna read the book anyway, but with her egging me on, I said, okay. I can't tell you the amount of threatening audios I left her in her WhatsApp box, because I know she was, because she just put me through so much, like lying to me, I feel, because she ain't tell me the real premise of the book. Like I was just like, girl, that book got a lot of emotion out of me, I will say. But I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. That was one of the best books I've read this year. Amazing therapy representation, amazing representation, period. I had fun. Then I listened to her, Kennedy Ryan's Small Audio Coming Home, which is like a homecoming, little college, second chance romance. Amazing. Quick listen. I think I gave it 4 stars, yeah. Then I listened to Dear Emilia, which is the first book in the Love in Seattle series by Asia Monique. This is a Black romance as well. And a lot of people were like, oh, this is the Black Dreamland Billionaires. Like, when I tell you they don't even compare, these are just rich, wealthy Black characters. who happen to fall in love. Ain't no Dreamland Billionaire about it. The dad is a good person. Like, I don't even know what. Nothing More to Tell by Karen McManus. I gave that a 5 star. I don't even have to look down. I gave it a 5 star. That was one of my favorite books of the year. That book, if you're gonna listen to a YA murder mystery, go ahead and pick that one up. I mean, granted, I am not done with her, so I'll let y'all know my thoughts when I'm done. But like, oh my gosh, I can't even really like deep dive without screaming, shouting, twitching, because it was so good, guys. Like, the murder is good, the subplots are good. I didn't guess who the true murderer was, which is very rare for me, because I will use my criminal mind's intelligence. Like, when I read these books, I go off my context clues and I'm gonna figure out what happened. Like in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I actually guessed who the murderer was. I just didn't guess. There's like 2 parts to it. Like, I guess the first half, not the second half. You know what I mean if you have read or listened to the book. Next book I read was The Wash Day Diaries, which is a graphic novel, which is amazing. It's a phenomenal graphic novel. So much representation. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Just look at the cover and you know what I mean. And one of the characters' names was Kim, so I read Team Players by Deanna Gray, and I give 5 stars. I loved it so much. Basically, both the love interests are both hockey coaches, and it's a friends with benefits romance, and I love friends with benefits to lovers. You know what I mean? Like, they start off thinking that's just a hookup, and then they're like, wait, I kind of like this. Like, wait, I want to cuddle. It's so cute. Then I read Sinners Anonymous, and I gave it 4 stars. The first book was all right. I will stand by my 4 stars. I read Truly Devious. When I tell you this book took over me, this series took over me, because the big kahuna like murder mystery takes 3 books to solve. Nobody told me that. So that is what I was dealing with. But I gave that one, I actually gave it 3 stars. Yeah, I think it took a while to pick up, but I didn't hate it. It was just like, I couldn't believe it left off in a cliffhanger, and I was pissed. I then read The Heartbreak Bakery, which I gave 4 stars. That one is amazing, great representation. Honestly, anybody with eyes and ears should definitely pick it up. I'm pretty sure it's a banned book too, and you know how I feel about banned books. Go get those banned books. I read The Vanishing Stair, which is the 2nd book in the Truly Devious series, and I give it 4 stars. I can't say anything about the series without spoiling it. I can't, but it's so good. It's truly one of my favorite series of the year. If only you The sixth Bergman book, I'm literally gonna burst out into tears. The sixth Bergman book, it is so good. I loved getting in Ziggy's head finally. And Seb and Ziggy, they're like night and day, like Grumpy Sunshine for real. I love them, so good. Then I read The Hand on the Wall, which is the third book in the Truly Devious series, where it kind of wraps up everything in the main first story murder plot line, and it was amazing. Hello. I give 4 stars, I loved it. Then I read a comic book, Teen Titans Robin, which is the 4th book in the whole Teen Titans kind of saga with Gabriel Piccolo and Cami Garcia, who I met, and she signed my comic books at Book Bonanza, and I was so happy. And then I read Sinful Vow, which is the first book in Asia Monique's Mafia Misfit series. It is so good. Oh my gosh. She's kind of like an unhinged, like if you like unhinged female leads, go ahead and pick that book up. She don't care what she do, and he lets her do. He doesn't, you know how sometimes guys are like, oh, I think you should be safe. Oh, I don't think you should. No. He'll see her like going ape because, you know, she's an assassin. So she'd be like, pew, pew, pew. For bad people only. She don't just, you know, be doing anything. And he'd be like, okay, I mean, just like let me know when you need to come home so we can get dinner. And she's like, okay, babe. I'm so sorry. I love that book. Oh my gosh, so good. Then I read listened to Well Traveled by Jen DeLuca, which I gave a 3.5. It is my least favorite in the series, but it is pretty good. Then I read Sinners Consumed book. That should not have 4 stars. Let me give it 3. I'm so sorry. I skipped the second one then. Yeah, the second book, I don't know why I skipped it because it should be here. But yeah, the second Sinners Condemned book, or Sinners Anonymous book, was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I think that is my least favorite read of the year. Do you know why I say that? Because nothing happened. The way the book started is exactly the way the book ended. Just smut. If you want mafia smut, go ahead and pick that book up. If you don't, if you want a genuine, I'm a girly, I love a good plot. Okay. I want to know what the hell's going on. I want to know that something was accomplished. I want to know the feelings grew, but something else, like, you know what I mean? I want to feel the same way I feel about the romance as I do the plot, the characters. I don't care about any of the characters in the book. How is it that I've read 2 books like focusing on this world and I don't care about anyone in the world? You tell me, babes, because I don't know. Anyways, I gave the second book, or the third book, 3 stars. I think I gave the second one 2 stars, maybe 1.5. I was not a fan. Then I read The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. Yeah, it is so good. It is pen pal. It starts off as pen pal, then it's neighbors, and it's author slash fan slash, I think she's like a marketing, she works in children's books, but she doesn't write anything, but he is like a faceless author, and he's like her favorite author, but she doesn't know that that's him. And then it's so good. It's so good. I just loved it. It's really good, and it's a Black romance. Then I read In a Jam, or listened to it rather, and I actually met Jason Thorne, who voiced the main guy in a Jam. Okay. Let me tell y'all something. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll give him Miss Cookie. I give the book 4 stars. I docked a star because of the length and that nasty child. The child, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I love Jenny. Such a fun kid. Kayla, if you're watching this, I'm looking at you. It's definitely a kid. Definitely a character. She was written. Okay, then I finally read Consider Me by Becca Mack, and I gave that book 3.5 stars, okay? Now, I actually really liked the book when I look back, but it was just so cringe. There were so many cringe moments. When I tell you my body was caving in on itself. If you guys have read the book, the main guy has an obsession with Oreos, and it reminds me of the mustache phase in like the 2013, 2012 Tumblr era, when mustaches were just in for some unknown reason, but not any mustache, a specific, you know, that era. That's what it gave, because what? As a grown man, this is somebody who is a professional hockey player, who's like built to the gods, amazing body, and eats his body weight in Oreos every weekend. Am I supposed to believe? Who are you tricking? Because it's not me. But besides, I actually really like the book. The romance is good. The characters are fun. Why can't we have fun characters anymore? I like them. They are very fun to me. Reread Restore Me by J.L. Seegers because I love that book. It's one of my comfort books, and I love J.L. J.L., if you're watching this, much love. Okay, then I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, which is the second book in the Mr. Wrong Number series, which I actually didn't even know it was the second. I don't think it's connected to that first book at all. That first book was horrendous. I think it was one of the worst books I read last year. This year, The Love Witch is phenomenal. 4.5 stars. I don't know who was her editor this year, who was in her ear telling her, hey man, you gotta do better. But whoever that was, thank you. I can give you a kiss on both cheeks right now. That was phenomenal advice because this book was great. It was great. Okay? I'm a sucker for people who become friends after like a bad date, or like not even a bad date, but become friends and then like use each other for like dating experience. And then one of them might have to go to a wedding and one of them might be the wedding date. And then they fall for each other, but the guy was in love first. He fell first and harder. I loved it. She did such a good job. I also met Lynn at Book Bonanza. Ding. Then I read the second book in the Mafia Misfits series by Asia Monique, Sinful Redemption. Really good. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Mixtape by Brittany C. Cherry. I gave it 4 stars. That book is one of the most emotionally taxing books I've read this year. I was definitely going through it. And I don't want to go through it again. I think 1 was enough. And it was really good, but damn. Then I listened to Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. And let me tell you, that's one of my favorite top 5 book of the year. Top 5 book of the year. It is done so well. Whoever was in Abby's ear ate down. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. It was so good. How are you gonna do so, like, when I tell you Part of Your World was one of my favorite books last year, and then she gonna drop this gem? Like, I'm sorry, she got a writer in me. I'm writing till dawn. Okay, then I read Ride or Die by Gail Agnes. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but if you type in Ride or Die by Gail Agnes, you'll find it. And this is a scavenger hunt Goonie / romance-ish crazy YA book, and I love it, every second of it. It literally feels like a high-speed car chase with everything in it. And if you like adventure, if you like complex characters, if you like representation, I recommend picking it up. I actually just interviewed her yesterday and I had a great time. This book is so good, y'all. It's so good. I gave it a 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4.5. Then Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Rachel Lynn Solomon is one of my favorite authors of all time, and she did not disappoint with this book. I think she did a good job. I give it 4 stars. It is not out, so I cannot say much about it. But it is coming out very soon. Then I read The Box in the Woods, which is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series, and it takes on a completely different story than the first 3 books. And I gave it 4.25. I actually really liked it. It was a lot darker, and some subject material and stuff than the first couple of books, but it was very good. The book is called Play With Me by Becca Mack, and I gave it a 3.85 stars. And I remember I took some out because, again, some elements were cringy to me. But I really did have fun reading the book. I think the characters are good. I think some of the stuff was redundant in the book, but yeah, almost 4. Then Coach by Devaney Perry. I gave it a 3, and I don't even want to talk about that book before I get a headache. Then I read Better Hate Than Never by Chloe Lisa. Chloe Lisa is one of my favorite authors of all time. She's definitely high up on the list. I met her at Book Bonanza. One of the best experiences I've ever experienced. I love her to death. This book did not disappoint. I give it 4 stars. I like the first book a little better, but the second one is still really good, and I can't say anything on it because it is not out yet. So I'm actually gonna make a separate video because I just looked at the footage, and this video is gonna be quite long. So I'll probably make a separate video for my June reads, but I'll tell you guys everything up to then. So we have 4 more books. So I started the Chestnut Spring series. I read the first one, Flawless. I love Rhett and Summer so much. I really like the Chestnut Spring series universe because it's so comforting, it's so real, and I love a small town romance. I also thought they were based in America. I cannot believe they're Canadian. I've never heard about Canadian like cowboys, so I was very intrigued to find out they're in Canada. I actually found out they're in Canada after I read the first 4 books. I thought they were like in Kentucky or like Indiana or something. I don't know, I didn't pay attention. But then my friends were like, oh yeah, they're Canadian. And I was like, who's Canadian? But yeah, so I give the first book 4 stars. It's very good. Then I read 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson, which is the 5th book in the Truly Devious series, and it is my least favorite. I gave it 3 stars. I just think that it was I don't know, it just feels like it wasn't like as thought out as the other books, and I don't know, I just had high expectations and it disappointed me. Then I read the 2nd book in the Chestnut Spring series, which is my 2nd favorite book in the entire series. It is so good. I love Summer and Cade. It is, it's like a nanny romance. It's so cute. Age gap, it's not a bad age gap. Usually I hate age gaps, but this one worked. And she's just the main character, Willa, is such a fiery person. And she's so like witty, and I don't know, I love her so much. She's truly one of my favorite characters I have read about this year.
And then the last book in this video that I'm going to talk about is Baby Moon or Bust by Ava Hunter, which is the last book I read in May. After this, I kind of went on an accidental pregnancy binge. I think I read 2 more books after that. It was accidental pregnancy, but it is so good. It's like one night stands, and then she doesn't tell him that she's pregnant, or because she doesn't really know, and she doesn't know his identity because it was a one night stand. And she was like in this like place she hadn't been before, and it is so good. I had fun. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, thank you guys for checking in with me, even though I didn't tell you my June reads because I'm tired of talking right now. Edit this down, but like I've been talking for like the last hour or 2. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for tuning in. Please follow me on all my other socials. I'll hopefully make that June wrap up pretty soon, since June literally ends tomorrow. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
Probably when you're not looking, you'll find someone who reads the same books or listens to the same music or likes to trash the same movies.